Okay. We will call the meeting to order. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All ayes. Item number 3, we're going to approve the minutes. 3.1, I just have one correction, I think. If I remember right, item number 4, which is on the bottom of page 1, the public hearing. Didn't we delete that from our last agenda?
We did, yes.
Okay.
There wasn't a public hearing.
We just need to amend that in the minutes, or how do you do that?
It's actually just the template, so there was nothing listed under it saying that there was a public hearing.
Okay, but it looks like there was. Oh, because it
Because
doesn't
there was
have
no
anything
item, there was
listed?
no topic listed under it, so it wasn't part of the agenda, it's just part of the template that was out there. It's a standard template,
Okay,
and that's how it's been for previous
everybody-
agendas as well.
okay. So if I understand it right, it would just list what we opened our public hearing about if we actually had a public hearing.
Yes.
If we did, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is
That's
everybody
correct.
comfortable with that?
Yes, thanks for explaining that too, Brenda.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
agreed.
Jen, would it be helpful if nights we don't have public hearings, if it said like no public hearing was held in the minutes?
I think it would be nice. I think especially if any, I don't know, for me it would be helpful, but maybe I'll catch on a little bit.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. So any other notes or amendments to the minutes for 3.1 September 20th? Nope. Can make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2018 Planning Commission as is.
A second to the motion?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we will move forward with 3.2, which is the joint session, June 25th, 2018. Any questions or notes about that?
No questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the June 25th, 2018 joint session, 2014 comprehensive plan minutes.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving right along. Item number 4, public hearing. So we'll go ahead and
I'm going to give a little
hear your
presentation
presentation,
first, if that's okay.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, members of the commission, tonight we do have a public hearing related to the 2019 fee schedule. So we're talking specifically tonight about the planning and zoning fees only. So it's a section of the fee schedule that the council reviews and will formally adopt, usually at the first meeting of every year. So first meeting, January 7th, 2019. This will go back to the Planning Commission for full approval and will then be in effect in 2019. So procedurally, the Planning Commission does review this annually, so it's a pretty typical process around this time of the year. You do hold the public hearing strictly for the planning and zoning fees. There's a little bit of a change this year. So this will be the first year with a fee schedule where there's an in-house planner, which is changing things a little bit. So previously when the planner was a consultant, their fees were passed through. So essentially any billable time was sent back to the developer and said, hey, I spent 10 hours on this, this is my billable rate, and that went to the developer. Since the position has been brought in-house, that pass-through has ended. So a lot of my time and the time that I spend working on some of these applications comes through in the fee schedule. So thinking through the planning and zoning fees, you'll see slight increases in several of the categories that are listed tonight, and that largely reflects that change. So the developer is no longer being charged that pass-through planning fee, so we've upped some of the application charges. So to move forward with the fee schedule that is presented tonight for the planning and zoning, there are 2 ordinance changes that are required. So if you think about the way the city code and the fee schedule work together, the city code essentially needs to allow us to charge some of these fees, and there are 2 ordinances that don't currently reflect what is proposed in the 2019 schedule. So tonight, those 2 ordinances are just before you for discussion. Ordinance changes do require public hearing, so if you're comfortable moving forward, both of those public hearings will be at the November meeting and then forwarded on to the City Council for adoption of both the ordinance changes as well as the 2019 fee schedule.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, so I have this table in front of me,
Yeah.
and I have it, one column's labeled 2018, one's 2019. What's the first column?
So those are the changes that were proposed, I think. I'm actually not sure what that first column is. That might be a wonky copy-paste.
Yeah, the first column wasn't part of our original packet, I don't
Oh,
believe. I
interesting.
mean, our packet starts with 2018.
Wow, that
and then
sounds like it's the
2019
better version.
Yeah, but the one you emailed out,
Yeah,
it was there.
correct, yep. So we're gonna, let's see.
So it shouldn't be there.
Right, I'm gonna ask you to bypass that first column. That's an odd one. I'm not even sure where it's coming from. So we're gonna focus on the 2018 fees as well as the 2019. So things in yellow are places where things changed. So you'll see in the yellow, it's largely things were increased. You'll see the X out of the base map updating fee. So that one is, Bolton and Menk is our city engineer, and they also do our mapping fees, so that's just going to be a pass-through. So it's eliminating that fee, essentially. We're still collecting those dollars, but just taking it out of the fee schedule specifically. There are also some changes after doing some of these exercises in the city of Carver, recognizing the amount of work that some of them take. So a couple of the annexations that have been processed this year, the application fee has been raised just to reflect the amount of billable hours that are required for the process to be fully completed. And then the two major changes, I would say, where the ordinances are required to be changed are the escrows as well as the sign permit. So down at the bottom in the all yellow. So thinking through preliminary plat, each time a preliminary plat comes in, based on the amount of lots that are in the development, there will be an escrow. That escrow can be used to essentially give us a little bit of a bank from the developer to charge things like the attorney fee and the city engineer fee. So it's essentially money that we hang on to, but can also deduct some of those fees through that escrow. So thinking collectively and where we line up with communities that are surrounding and similar to Carver, you'll see that cities really vary on what they include in their fee schedule. A lot of times they're called different things or they look a little bit different. Also, it's a little bit different if cities have in-house city engineers, city attorneys, city planners. So you'll see that everything is covered just for Carver. That doesn't mean Chaska, Waconia, Victoria, and Shakopee don't charge these. They just likely charge it a little bit different. So each city has some flexibility in how they charge and what they charge. So comparatively, I would like to think that we are pretty competitive compared to surrounding cities. I think Chaska is a bit interesting because they have an in-house engineer and not a city attorney. They have an in-house engineer. So I suspect some of those dollars cover those costs as well. So instead of just covering planning costs, it's likely planning and engineering. So don't feel like they're robbing everybody in Chaska. So just for comparison, I would say we're hitting pretty similar amounts across cities. Big things usually differ between cities are things like park dedication, but largely the application fees, I would say, are comparable, if not a bit cheaper as a whole. So a little bit more information about the two changes to the ordinances that will be required. They're really small. In the staff report, they were highlighted, the language that needs to be added. On the screen, they're in red. So the first one is section 50-3093, which is signs. And that's just adding language that both a sign permit and a sign fee are set as determined by the city's fee schedule. And then section 42-41 allows us to charge that escrow at the time of preliminary plat. So order of events tonight, I'm going to open it up for comments and questions. Again, there is a public hearing that's required, so I'll ask you to open and close the public hearing and then move forward with a recommendation.
Okay, I have a couple clarifying questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you go back to the fee schedule that's posted up there.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. But if you go back to the other one, that was part of our original packet, this one.
Yes.
So this one is not updated, is that correct?
Nope, this is. So it has Carver's 2018 fees, 2019 fees, and then cities
Okay, so if you look at,
across.
for example, park dedication,
Yes.
3224, then you go to this Then you go to this. What is the next slide? Okay, go one more.
One more back.
Okay, then that, does
Yep.
that has park dedication as well,
It does, yes.
right? Oh, good, that's, okay. So it's the same, correct? I looked at a different number. Okay, that's right. Can you just elaborate what that entails?
Park dedication?
Right.
Sure.
So when we talk about it in preliminary plats and whatnot,
Yeah,
is this just
absolutely.
a one-time cost?
So anytime a lot comes into the city Carver and is split, park dedication is required. So it's required on residential, commercial, industrial, anything that gets platted through the city. And then park dedication fees can only be used for new parks. So if in the future.
So it goes into a pot of money for Carver?
It does, yes.
Okay.
And it can only be used for parks, which is both challenging, but I also think really cool, because once we get a sizable amount of lots online, we have we get some money in there that we can start thinking about larger parks together. So park dedication goes into a pot of money for new park acquisition or park improvements.
So it's for lots that are split?
Yes, any lot that's
Each-
platted.
Okay. Because when you look at it comparatively to Waconia and Chaska, it's significant, it looks less, you know,
Yes, yep.
based off of how it's written in here. Okay,
Did you say only for new parks?
Correct. So if a park needed new equipment, we're not able to use park dedication fees for replacement.
Unless you were adding equipment to handle a bigger,
Right, but it needs to not be specified in the original plan, it needs to be full addition.
Okay. And then that would not include trails? Is that treated separate?
So trails typically come in with development, so if you think about like Oak Tree that recently had the trail installed along Jonathan Carver Parkway, the developer is responsible for that trail development, so they're responsible for trails as well as the parkland dedication fee. Something else that can be worked in with that fee, if we've identified a location in the city that we think would have a fantastic park, we're able to take land in lieu of that cash. So we can say, instead of paying this per lot amount of money, we want 5 acres to develop this great park we've been thinking about for years.
okay, I just have another question on the preliminary plat.
Mhm.
Okay, so when it gets divided, basically it's this understanding the difference between a major subdivision and a minor?
Yes.
Because then when you look down further on the escrow, you know, it's based off of how many lots?
Yep.
So that's applicable to the major, when they fall into a major category, or?
So major is 3+. So there is an escrow that's 10 or fewer lots.
Right, got it.
So that would cover any preliminary plat that we review, just based on the number of lots.
Any particular reason why there wasn't an increase in the park dedication fees, since that seems to be such a, everyone wants their green space and their fun space?
Yes. So Brian Skoke, the Public Services Director, and I are starting work on the Parks Master Plan. I do anticipate an update to the ordinance and the Parks Master Plan in the next probably 6 months to a year that will likely reflect a change in the parkland dedication fee.
Then would we have to wait till a year from now?
So we can amend the fee schedule if necessary. So depending on the timing of it, it sometimes makes sense to wait until there's a full update, but you are able to amend the fee schedule throughout the year.
Thank you.
So no, you wouldn't have to wait.
Any other questions?
No further questions?
No, I just appreciate the clarification of the
Sure.
changes,
No
because I had
problem.
that as a question, and you answered it before I had to ask it. Okay. Do we have any questions about the ordinances that we're talking about? The sign and the, okay.
Nope.
All righty. Well, then we can proceed with opening the public hearing.
Correct.
And then we note that there's no public to attend or ask questions, and then close accordingly. Correct? You do matter. Let's see where we're at.
So should I make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're moving on to any new business then.
Oh,
Is that correct? Oh, no, I know what we need to do. Go ahead.
All right. I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the land use fees as presented in the draft 2019 fee schedule.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we can move forward to item number 5. Any new business?
I don't have any new business.
Okay.
So apparently, we don't have to do anything with the ordinances.
No, so tonight is just discussion. I just wanted to get a general head nod to move forward with posting the public hearing before that went forward.
Okay, and then item number 6, communications. Any updates? Courtney?
Just, you probably know more about, the only thing that I have is next Wednesday's comp plan meeting, the Design Carver Comprehensive at 6:30? 6:30, right here?
Do you, and thank you for the packet ahead of time, do you have an idea how long that meeting might run? And I know a lot of it just depends on the open discussion, too.
So
I can plan for 4 hours.
I'm gonna hope it's not 4 hours. It's probably the chance that the city engineer will be at the meeting, so he's going to go over some water and transportation resources. Not the most glamorous or fun, in my personal opinion, just because it's really technical work. But depending on that discussion, I would say it'll be maybe an hour and a half, just depending on how much you guys want to chat. But a couple of the drafts that I personally sent out, the group has seen before, so I'm not foreseeing major discussion on some of those sections. And it's
Thank
a
you.
beefy packet, so thank you in advance for reviewing it.
And the meeting will be here, not in the new city hall?
Not quite. We're getting there every day. I also will give just a quick heads up for the November Planning Commission meeting. It's November 20th. I am foreseeing right now, looking into my crystal ball, I think there might be 4 public hearings that night. So we're going to have a floodplain ordinance to go over. The Sunny Ridge Senior Project is going to be back for preliminary plat and rezoning, which requires a public hearing. And then the 2 ordinances that we just discussed tonight will take public hearing. So 3 of them, I would say, are ordinance related. 1 is project based.
So you said that was November 20th,
Correct.
a Tuesday?
Or is it the 15th? Is it November 15th? That's my dad's birthday. November 15th.
Still with a 6:30 start?
Correct, yes. I figured that might be good if things get lengthy on that one.
The 22nd?
No, that's
That's
Right,
Thanksgiving.
right, so the, what date?
15th.
15th.
The week prior, okay.
Yep.
Yep, that's what, good. Okay,
That's all I have.
okay, that sounds great.
November 24th, we're going to have the gazebo Christmas tree lighting, so just keep that in mind. That's a Saturday, 5 o'clock. Unless you want to help decorate.
And show up before 5 o'clock?
Yeah, about noon.
Oh, noon. Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.